Happy New Year, Trekkies, Trekkers. Welcome back to Trek Mission Log. My name is Jason Gilbert. I hope that you had a fantastic Christmas celebration. Our Christmas plans got upended this time around. We had a crazy winter storm that came through, and for 3 days the snow never stopped, and it was windy. And the roads were all closed. All in all, we had about 3 to 4 feet of snow on the ground. Took a couple of days for us to dig out. And then on New Year's, we hit warm weather, and it all melted away. It was just crazy, crazy weather. But I am happy to be back with another review for you after a 2-week hiatus. And I hope I didn't get too rusty in that time off. Now, before we begin today, I want to put a plug in to a great channel for my very good friend, Chris Merleys. His channel is called Merle on Time, and he does watch reviews. And I purchased a great watch from his collection just this past week. Still waiting for it to get in the mail. But he does incredible watch reviews. They are fantastic. He also does a segment called Beyond the Watch, where he interviews other watch collectors and specialists, and he's very, very knowledgeable. So if you have related questions regarding watches, he's very, very good and very quick at responding, and I will put a link to his channel in the description. Also, I want to show off a new piece to a personal collection that I have. I collect coffee mugs. I know it sounds kind of lame, but my wife this year hooked me up with this beautiful mug. It says Space the Final Frontier. It's a Star Trek on the front with the Enterprise, and then on the reverse side is the Starfleet insignia. And I'm really very, very happy with that, and it has earned a place of honor on my office desk. Now, today we're going to be taking a close look at Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 2, titled Who Mourns For Adonais. It aired on September 22nd, 1967. It was written by Gilbert Ralston. It was directed by Mark Daniels and produced by Gene L. Kuhn. So check out this piece of trivia regarding this episode, and then we'll dive right in. As the episode begins, Captain Kirk is receiving a report from Lieutenant Carolyn Palamas on the system of Pollux, and more specifically about the planet Pollux IV, and how that there is a lack of intelligent life in this system. Kirk decides then to take the ship into orbit around Pollux IV. Scotty invites Lieutenant Palamas, Carolyn, how we will refer to her, to join him for a coffee. And she agrees, and the two of them leave the bridge together. Spock gives a report about this planet. Now, as they are engaged in standard orbiting procedures, suddenly a giant green hand appears on their screen. When asked for a report, Spock said, "It is not tissue, it is a field of energy." Kirk orders the ship turned around, but they can't get away from the hand. Kirk orders full reverse of engines, but the hand keeps reaching for the ship. Eventually, the hand grabs the ship and rocks the ship back and forth. When the ship steadies, the helm and other ship's functions are not responding. They can't move. We then go into the title sequence. When we come back, this is what we see. What a great shot that is. Kirk orders Uhura to relay to Starbase 12 what is happening. He orders Sulu to try rocking the ship, going forward and backward on impulse power. Sulu can't break the Enterprise free. Kirk then orders forward tractor beams adjusted to repel. That also did not work. Spock then says that a development is taking place and it is put on the screen, and this is what they see. This man talks about their brave journey. He calls them his children and how they have made him proud. Kirk asked if he was responsible for stopping the ship. He replied that he was. Kirk said that they can defend themselves. He said that the planet has the same fire as their ancestors, and he names a host of mythological and legendary figures, and he said that they will obey him or he will close his hand. At that point, external pressure was building up, and as the ship was reaching critical, Kirk surrenders. The pressure is released, and the man on the screen invites Kirk and his officers to join him on the planet, but the one with the pointed ears is not welcome. Kirk leaves the ship in Spock's hands to try to find the answers to this problem. Kirk and McCoy leave to assemble a landing party. Kirk, McCoy, Scotty, Chekhov, and Carolyn beam down to the planet's surface. Now, while on the planet, it is revealed that she is a specialist on archaeology and ancient civilizations. They come to what appears to be a Greek temple. The man sitting on the throne of the temple speaks with joy about the travelers who came to him from planet Earth. He mentions how he touched the earth with his hand and caused an earthquake and breathed on it, and spring came again, and he announced himself as Apollo, a Greek god. Chekhov said he's never met a god. Kirk looked at him and said, "You still haven't." McCoy, who was taking readings, said that his reading is humanoid. We also noticed that Apollo is completely taken with Carolyn. Kirk asked him what he wanted with them, and Apollo said that they will not leave this place. He has disabled their transporter, he has disabled their communicators, and he said that he wants them to worship him as their ancestors before them did. Kirk said that he was no god to them and that he has a lot to learn. Apollo said they also have a lot to learn, and the lesson begins now. And at that moment, Apollo grew to a huge size before them. He then welcomed Kirk and the team to Olympus. On the ship, the crew are working hard to break through whatever is blocking their communications. Uhura said that she could try to rig a bypass circuit, and Spock ordered her to work on it. He also orders a sensor sweep of the planet to locate all life forms. On the planet, Apollo disappears before them. Kirk asks for an analysis, and he asks Carolyn for her knowledge of Apollo. She gives a brief history of Apollo and his lineage. Scotty and Chekhov talk about how he has control over a powerful energy, and Kirk orders them to find the source of that energy. Now, at that moment, Apollo reappears. He said he wants their loyalty and worship. In response to McCoy's question about what they get in return, he said the chance to live with him in paradise. Kirk told him that they don't worship every creature they encounter who has a bag of tricks. Apollo responded that they would feel his wrath. Scotty said, "You'll find that we're capable of wrath as well." Carolyn said, "This doesn't make sense." And when Apollo looks at her, he is taken with her beauty and said she would know what it is like to be a goddess. Scotty demands that he leave her alone, and he tried to fire his phaser, but Apollo charged it with electricity and sent electric shock through Scotty's body. Chekhov tried to fire his phaser as well, but his phaser was useless. In fact, All the phasers had their mechanisms fused. Apollo then looks at Carolyn and orchestrates a wardrobe change for her, and she loves it. As Apollo leaves with her, Scotty said she's not going with him, and Apollo sends him flying. As they leave, they both disappear, and McCoy tends to Scotty. When Scotty gets his bearings, Kirk orders him to stay focused on his job and to find the source of Apollo's power. Kirk and McCoy discuss the situation. Kirk said Apollo's no god, but he could have been taken for one at one time. And he comes up with a theory about how 5,000 years ago, a group of space travelers visited Earth, specifically ancient Greece. And when those people saw the power that these beings like Apollo had, they took them for gods, and thus the legends were born. On the ship, Sulu is looking at an instrument on the helm. To my recollection, we have not seen this instrument before, but I certainly stand to be corrected. Spock asked him if he is ready to reverse polarity, and as they try to break free, the ship rocks. Spock orders it stopped. Sulu picks up an energy pulse from the planet, and Spock suggests that if he cannot find the origin, he should look for where it is not and find it through process of elimination. On the planet, Apollo and Carolyn are beside a pond. Apollo talks about how they used to be revered and worshipped, but people changed and the gods only became memories. And he said that gods can't exist in only memories. He said the other gods threw themselves upon the wind, but he chose to wait for this group of people to come. He said that he is choosing a mortal to sit by his side, and that would be Carolyn. And at that moment, they kiss. The rest of the landing party are trying to figure out where the power is coming from. Chekhov suggests that Apollo taps into a flow of energy and channels it through his body. McCoy said that there is in fact an extra organ in Apollo's chest and has no idea what it is. At that moment, Apollo reappears, and Carolyn is not with him. Apollo said she is no longer their concern. Scotty tries to attack him again, and Apollo sends him flying. Poor Scotty. He is wearing a red shirt, though. McCoy said that he is suffering severe shock. Kirk told Apollo that he wanted worshippers, but now he has enemies. Suddenly, something chokes Kirk and drives him to his knees. Apollo said that they would learn discipline, and then for a moment appears weak and then disappears. And Chekhov notices this. When Kirk and Scotty come to, they talk about how Apollo got tired after expending energy. Kirk said that they may have to try to get Apollo to expend as much energy as they can to tire him out. On the ship, Uhura is trying to bypass a circuit to resume communication with the landing party. Sulu is searching different sectors of the planet for the source of the energy. Spock wants to try to punch through the holes in the force field that is holding the ship in place. On the planet, Apollo returns with Carolyn. He said he tried to be benevolent to them. He asked what mankind demands of its gods. Kirk said that mankind doesn't need gods because we're quite happy with one. Indeed, a reference to Almighty God. Apollo demanded they approach him, and in an act of solidarity, they turn their back on him, and then they begin insulting him to provoke him to anger so that he could tire himself out by using energy. And as he was about to do so, Carolyn steps in and says that a father doesn't hurt his children, and thus she thwarts Kirk's plans. Apollo said they need to make plans to have the rest of their people come down. They will take whatever supplies they need from the ship, and then Apollo would destroy the Enterprise. Then he and Carolyn disappear. Kirk said he had one more idea, but it all depends on the loyalty of Lieutenant Pollux. Apollo is expressing his frustration with the human beings, with Carolyn. He then told her that he would love her for all of eternity and that people all over the universe would adore her as a goddess. And at that point, they kiss again. Carolyn reappears with a message from Apollo. The message is that he wants them to live in peace and he wants to provide for them. Kirk told her that they have to work together and not give Apollo the worship he wants. He asked her to reject him. She told Kirk that she loves him. Kirk said that to live there would be to live in slavery. He tries to get her to think that her duty lies in helping humanity. As she was leaving, he told her that she had her orders, and she replied, "Yes, sir." She leaves. Uhura was successful in bypassing the communications and was able to call down to Kirk. Spock told Kirk that the power emanates from the structure that they are close to. Kirk orders all ship's phasers to be locked on the structure, as they are now able to shoot holes through the force field. Kirk wants to destroy the power source. Meanwhile, Carolyn has been true to her word, and she tells Apollo that she has to get back to work, and that all this time she has only been studying him. Apollo is now angry, and he begins to summon power, and he summons a lot of it. Kirk calls up to the ship and orders Spock to fire the phasers, and so the ship fires, and Apollo tries to stop them, and after several minutes the power source is destroyed. Apollo is in tears. He said he would have loved them and cherished them and cared for them. He looked at Carolyn and asked her why she did this to him. Suddenly he grew bigger again. He called on the other gods and asked that they take him. He then disappears. At that point, Kirk and McCoy regret what they had to just do. They beam back aboard, and the Enterprise sails away. Season 2 began with an incredible episode titled Amok Time. You can watch that review on my channel. That incredible episode was followed up by a mediocre episode. Definitely not the best material that they've put out there, but also I have to say that this was not the worst. So I'll begin my thoughts with the elements that I thought were positive, and then I'll delve into what I thought was not good about this episode. First and foremost, the best element of this episode is that for the very first time in the original series, the whole classic lineup is present and active. And I thought that that was outstanding in this episode. Not only are they all there, but they also have a key role to play. It was great to see Uhura engaged in this episode and doing the circuitry work. Sulu had a great role in this episode. Chekhov on the planet earned his pay. Got to watch the episode to get that one. Scotty also has a great role. We even saw a jealous, protective side of Scotty that got him electrocuted and beat up several times. Now, I've always contended that Star Trek is best when the ensemble is all there, and so in that respect, well done for this episode. Another great element was the special effects. The giant energy hand holding the ship in place, the thunder, the lightning, the phaser fire. Also, when Apollo grew, it was all really, really cool. It was good to see the studio spending a little extra money for these effects to be in place. Another great element of this episode was the opening sequence. Standard orbiting procedure goes terribly wrong. Mysterious giant hand is making its way for the Enterprise. It was exciting. It was mysterious. I also enjoyed the idea that Kirk brought up the theory that thousands of years ago, space travelers visited Earth, ancient Greece, and displayed their power, and that's how the legends and the myths were born. I felt that that was well done, a great idea, a good perspective, good sci-fi. The story was just okay. I think a big part of the issue with this episode is the pacing of the story. It didn't know whether it wanted to be exciting and riveting or not. We have this being, Apollo, played by Michael Forrest, and after a while, all of the roll call of the gods that was repeated throughout the whole episode got tiresome and boring. I also felt that his performance as this false god lacked emotion. He kept saying, "All I want is your worship and your adoration." And those statements kept going on and on ad nauseum. At best, it was a static performance. Now at the end, he did display incredible sadness, and in fact, that part of it was believable. Lieutenant Carolyn Pollux was an interesting character as well, portrayed by Leslie Parrish. She was given a big role here, and this is the first time we ever see her. She was absolutely taken with Apollo, but in the end, she did her duty as a Starfleet officer, which was good. And that leads me to talk about the guy that I really felt sorry for throughout this whole episode, Scotty. I felt his performance in this episode was just a little bit over the top. He invited Carolyn for a coffee at the beginning, and throughout the episode was smitten by her, and she really wanted nothing to do with him. He got electrocuted, he got sent flying twice in his attempt to rescue her, and still she wanted nothing to do with him. She was in love with Apollo. It was all fine and dandy. However, she was legitimately sad when Apollo disappeared at the end, and who does she turn to for comfort? Scotty. And he comforts her as she mourns in his arms, as she mourns the loss of Apollo. I think she should have at least told him that she wasn't interested in him. Oh well. I could go on, but all in all, I feel that this was a mediocre episode. It had good points at times, and then it had points where it sadly lacked. And so, for these reasons, I give Who Mourns For Adonais 3 out of 5 Starfleet insignias for awesomeness. If you missed this episode, you're not missing much. Well, that does it for this week's edition of Trek Mission Log. I hope that you enjoyed this review. Please feel free to leave some comments below. Things that you liked about this episode or that you didn't. Things that you thought maybe I should have talked about. All I ask is that we remain respectful of each other and that we keep our comments profanity free. I also ask that if you enjoy this content, please hit the subscribe button. It would really mean a lot to me. And for all of those of you who have subscribed to my channel, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And to those who are just watching these episodes, I also thank you for checking this out. I invite you to join me next time as we review episode 3 of the second season, titled The Changeling. Until then, have a happy new year. Live long and prosper.